park. And I love those spinny rides. Dornick Park in Allentown, Pennsylvania. That was my first job. I worked there from the age of about 14 to 20. And my very first job was in the soft serve ice cream stand. It was very cushy. It was the only air-conditioned food stand in the entire park. And it was great because we sold one thing, ice cream, soft serve, for $1. You didn't need a lot of brains to do this. So it was a great job. And the thing that was really cool about it, as well as you're in an amusement park, there's stuff going on. And right across the causeway was Music Express. Pennsylvania Dutch, I guess we should call it that. But the ride had these 12 or so little car things, contraptions that one or two people could sit in. You got in, and the bar came down, the music went on, and then you just spun in a circle, but it wasn't like you also dipped. And it just dipped and spun you, and the centripetal forces, right, would pull you to the side. And it was great. I loved it. So on my day off one time, a friend and I went over to the ride. We were in line. We got in our seat, and I looked at the ride op. And I knew the ride op. So I waved. I waved at the ride op. He waved back. And, we're just great, having fun, laughing. The ride gets going. And the thing is, the ride op wanted to make sure we had a really good ride. He wanted to make sure it was a great ride. So when it was time to stop, he didn't. He just kept it going. And it just went going and going. And it just spun and spun until some other people started to scream. Unfortunately, someone did get sick. It was awful. And everybody, including me, just wanted to stop and get off this ride. Stop the spinning. Now that might be the start of my dislike of going in circles. Or it could be just I'm getting older, and the rocks in your head that keep your balance, they get a little loose, and no more spinning in circles. I don't like to go in circles anymore. Not on amusement park rides, not running on a little track, and definitely no spinning. That was it that I was going to do here for you. No more. I don't like that physical feeling of losing your balance. I don't like the mindless repetition. I don't like just spinning my wheels, going in circles. But some circles, some cycles are unavoidable. Obviously, we are on this part of the planet, we have cycles and seasons, right? We're in spring, finally. Yes, we're in spring, right? We got some buds coming up, the grass is green. We get these seasons, and people love them. Spring, summer, fall, winter, spring, summer, fall, winter. And it's no secret that I detest winter. And I couldn't stop that completely. But now, as I said, we're in fall and spring. Spring. Stop. Season of renewal, longer hours of day, warming weather, soil buds sprouting, greening grasses, birds chirping. The promise, right, of recovery, of renewal. But it will all cycle through again. You don't get to stay here. It will cycle through again. The thing is, though, cycles are not just about weather and patterns and birds chirping and budding flowers. There's other circles, like the natural cycle of birth, life, and death. We call it the circle of life, right? There's a Disney song about this, And that's great and all, but it can be and feel a little bit more insidious. Because aren't there also cycles of other things? like hurt and vengeance. A seemingly endless cycle of tragedies repeating over and over again. Just some different names, Sandy Hook, Nashville. Just think of addiction with its cycles sometimes of abuse and some abstinence and sobriety and control and then perhaps some relapse. But always never really free, really, if you're an addict, never free of that addiction. The circle of life is true. We're all in it. We're born, we live, we die, we decay. Our atoms, our energy is recycled into the system. It's beautiful and efficient in theory until it's your partner, until it's your child, your best friend diagnosed with some incurable condition or suddenly taken from you by a random accident or consequences of poor choices or just the passing of good old time and we get old, the inevitable force of nature. Circle of life? Sure. It could also be called the circle of death, or, positivity. I think what is needed, though, I really think what is needed is an intervention, a break from this harsh reality of life and death. What is needed is actually not more nature, not more natural, but something outside of it. And that's what the resurrection is. The resurrection of Christ is not just some symbol of seasonal renewal. Oh, sure, we use that. We use that, especially in this part of the planet where we're in spring. We use that as a way to wrap our heads around what's going on with this Jesus resurrecting new life, what the church teaches, what the gospel preaches. We got butterflies, budding trees. We even have an Easter hymn. We're not singing it. We're singing, Now the Green Blade Rises. But I think, really, there's more to the story of Easter, more to the significance of the resurrection than just a spinning in circle of renewal. It's God's intervention, God's subversion, God's breaking of the natural cycle. Easter resurrection. It's a promise. The promise is that we're not stuck in repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat. It is God stepping in, and it is the church imagining a new way, the story of the risen Christ appearing to women and telling them to go and share and tell and preach the good news. And that spun the church in a whole direction, new direction of hope and empowerment for all, including women who were and are so often trapped in cycles of degradation or violence. And our gospel gave the most important message to them. It is the promise, the hope of breaking that cycle and saying, no to death as the end, no to violence, no to destruction, no to even nature as the end. See, God is promising something truly new, and I think it's really good that all four Gospels, none of them actually try to describe what happened in the tomb. None of them tell us when the light came down and he took the breath. Poets and priests and preachers have tried to fill that in. But how do you relate to something that is actually very unnatural? The resurrection. Something so terribly and terrifically new. So today we don't just celebrate the turning of tides, the changes of seasons, caterpillars and the butterflies. Today is about an intervention, a break in the system. No more spinning. No, just, oh, I'm going to repeat. Not a spin around a star, a spin of the wheel of time. The power of the resurrection is God saying, no more. No more. No more evil. You don't win this time, not again. It is that we don't have to be inevitably stuck in our ruts. You know the ruts we kind of get stuck in? That vengeance, an eye for an eye, a rocket for a stone, a bullet for an insult, tit for a tat. The hope of the resurrection gives us the power to withstand all the centripetal forces, all the things that are trying to keep us distracted and off balance, spinning our wheels, trying to help us, make us lose our balance and smash us physically, spiritually, and societally to the ground. Resurrection Easter news is that God's love wins. Pushes that stop button and frees us. You don't have to be in a cycle of despair, looking down on yourself. In the resurrection, we are no longer shackled to what has been, bound to repeat and repeat, spinning aimlessly. And for me, perhaps for you, there's no better news than that. Happy Easter. Amen.
Amen.